Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Well, hello, Kentucky. Welcome into Kentucky's Voice, the show where we're cutting through the noise, defending our freedoms, keeping it real for you in the Commonwealth and here in the greater Louisville area in particular. I'm your host today, Jim Waters, coming to you live on 970 WGTK, Louisville's powerhouse conservative talk radio's beast. And we're streaming live today across social media platforms. So wherever you are in this great Commonwealth or beyond, you can catch Kentucky's Voice live on Facebook, YouTube, on X. And then if you're in the market here in the area, you can pick up Kentucky's Voice, the television program. It's the same thing we do here. In fact, we tape this show and we play it on TV this afternoon at 12:34 and 8 this evening. We do that each and every weekday. So you can hear it, you can see it, and you can partner with us in this effort in a couple of different and very important ways. First, we want to hear from you about the issues we're talking about, the topics we choose to address on here. And every day you're going to hear about different issues and updates on issues that we're following as well. But we want to hear from you on Kentucky's Voice text line at 502-571-0970. So if you have a comment, a question, a complaint, let us know. And let us know earlier in the show. We can spend the last part of the show, make sure we get those text comments in on the same day that you text them in. So 502-571-0970. We want to hear your comments. Or if you're just listening, you want to say, hey, I'm catching the show. Maybe you're a first-time listener today. We'd love to hear from you. This is conservative talk radio. We are not trying to hide that fact. In fact, we want you to know what this is, what you're getting into. This is news and analysis and opinion on Kentucky issues, on national issues, and it's from a conservative, common sense, Christian-based point of view. And that's what we are. And we're the only media outlet in this state that's making that claim and that's actually following through with that. So you can partner with us by letting us know you're listening, by commenting on the issues, by letting us know what your thoughts are and your opinions are. We want to hear. But also you can partner with us financially. This is a faith-based, listener-supported ministry. If you're looking for a conservative, faith-based media voice that reports and analyzes events with a historically and biblically accurate viewpoint, as well as just the facts, getting the facts right, accurate, and with common sense, then you're at the right place, Kentucky's Voice. You found it. Kentucky's Voice is what you're looking for, and this is your voice. And so in a world gone mad with woke agendas and big government overreach, we need voices like this, and we need voices like yours, which is collectively, together, we are Kentucky's Voice. So we need your voice. We need your support now more than ever, considering especially what's happening in our public education system right here in Kentucky. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But on today's show, we'll have an eye-opening conversation with Hector Gonzalez, a brave Cuban American who fled Castro's communist hellhole, and now he's warning America not to let the same thing happen here, not to let radicals turn America into a one-party dystopia. Hector spoke right here in Louisville last week at the Jefferson County Republican Women's Club, and the message is a wake-up call we can't ignore and you can't miss. So don't miss that today. Later in the show, can members of the military just disobey orders they don't like or they don't politically agree with? Some left-wing politicians are encouraging them to do just that. President Trump had some choice words about these leftist Democrats. But first, we'll dive into the latest mess in Fayette County Public Schools, another taxpayer-funded fiasco that's got insiders pulling strings while our kids suffer. There's a lot to unpack here, and we're gonna talk about how Fayette schools are thumbing their noses at state oversight, wasting your hard-earned dollars on a shady audit, and even trying to muzzle their own board from talking to the press. And they're using eminent domain to take property for a new school on top of all that. All that and more coming up. We'll be joined by Hector Gonzalez here in the second segment. Don't miss it, right here on Kentucky's Voice. Stay with us.
Now, Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Letter from Kentucky Auditor Allison Ball is discouraging Fayette County Public Schools from moving forward with its own external audit. It comes as Auditor Ball's office is doing a special examination of the district's finances. In a letter to FCPS leadership, Auditor Ball raised concerns that a district audit would lead to more wasteful spending and would duplicate work being done by her office. Ball says she planned to seek state funding to cover examination costs, but says she cannot justify asking taxpayers to cover the cost if the district is paying for its own external audit. The auditor is asking FCPS to work with her office and reconsider its plans for that audit.
So, folks, this is about the Fayette County Public Schools. It's the second largest school district in Kentucky, over 40,000 students, second only to the Jefferson County Public Schools, which, though they've lost a lot of students in the past few years, they're still the largest district by far, by double the size of Fayette schools. But 40,000 students, the district's budget in 2026 for the fiscal year is $827 million. It was approved in September after months of turmoil, including a projected $16 million shortfall, failed tax proposals, leadership scrutiny, and calls for independent audits. And this crisis stems from years of overspending, of reliance on one-time funds and spending reserves that nobody knows how they're being spent. Millions of dollars are missing. They are missing. Originally, the Fayette County School Board was told that it had millions of dollars in its contingency fund, only to find out from the superintendent, Demetrius Liggins, who is an absolute example of incompetence. He's a smooth talker, but he's an incompetent leader. And nobody knows where this money went, or apparently it wasn't there. And so there were calls by taxpayers who, by the way, pay the bills for the school district. Newsflash to you leftist leaders of these school districts, like the school board chairman in Fayette County, who is also on the national board of the National Education Association, the largest teachers union in the country, and yet he sits as a school board chairman, Tyler Murphy, as a school board chairman of Kentucky's second largest school district, the Fayette Public Schools, which has millions of dollars missing. No one knows where it went. And so there were overwhelming calls for an audit, so much so that the superintendent even couldn't ignore this. The board couldn't ignore it. And so, and most importantly, State Auditor Allison Ball could not ignore it. And she agreed to begin to audit, and she has been conducting an audit of the Fayette Public Schools. But they know that she's not going to cut any corners here. She's not going to cut them any slack on this. And so this board decided they were going to do an independent audit with another firm. And they are absolutely doubling down on this, despite Allison Ball, the state auditor's recommendation that they not do this because it would be duplicative, it would be wasteful, it would cost taxpayer dollars unnecessarily, that she was basically ignored by the board, and they're moving ahead with their own audit. And not only is this a waste of taxpayer dollars, because the state auditor already auditing the district to find out where these dollars are going, what's happening with spending, but the choice of the firm hired by the Fayette Public School Board is now raising eyebrows. Weaver and Tidwell is a Texas-based firm, get this, that previously audited the Lancaster Independent School District. Why is this notable? Because the superintendent of that district at the time that audit was being conducted was Dr. Elijah Granger, the husband of current Fayette County, Kentucky Public Schools Superintendent Demetrius Liggins. That's his husband. And so, well, that's really interesting, is it not, that the same auditing firm that audited the Lancaster School District when Demetrius Liggins's husband, Elijah Granger, that's what the story says, folks. And it was in it was from different sources as well. So as far as I know, that's accurate. But the firm that did his husband's school district, the Lancaster School District, also has been hired by the Fayette County Public Schools to do their so-called independent district at a cost of hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. Who knows how much it'll cost before it's over with. Now, the interesting thing here, too, is that Lancaster Independent eventually came under state control due to the district's deep financial troubles. Even this friendly audit company, an auditing firm, could not prevent that from happening. It was so bad. And so when you think about what happens here, what's happening here, when a union insider like Tyler Murphy is the chair of a local school board, then you have the Fayette County Public School decision to go against the state auditor's recommendation and do its own audit. And how much, and then you have to ask, how trustworthy is this district? Zero, none. They absolutely have lost the trust of many of the taxpayers, property owners, and the community in Lexington. In fact, community leaders had called for Demetrius Liggins to step down because the district needed new leadership, but he has refused to do so. And on top of that, now there has been a proposal. On top of this audit absurdity, the Fayette County Public Schools is pushing a proposed policy that would gag their own school board members from speaking freely to the media. According to the Lexington Herald leader, this, Jim, would limit board members to scripted talking points. In other words, the talking points would be funneled through the superintendent's office. That's right. That's what would happen here. That's exactly what they want to happen. And what they're saying is that no dissenting school board members can express their views if they disagree with what the majority of the board has done. And they've had several 3-2 votes there in the Fayette County Public School Board in recent months, several split votes. And so what they're trying to do here is limit dissenting board members from expressing their disagreement, their views, if they disagree with the other board members or with the majority. And of course, even the Civil Liberties Union is saying you can't do this. You can't prevent board members from speaking out. It's a First Amendment issue, and they have First Amendment rights just like anybody else. But it's just telling, is it not, that that they want to prevent any disagreement, any dissenting members of the United States Supreme Court not being allowed to express their opinions or not releasing their opinions. So in other words, the Supreme Court would only release the majority opinion, and the minority opinion or the dissenting opinion would never be seen by the public. That's really what this is about. And can you imagine? Because some of the great things that have happened in our country have happened as a result of dissenting opinions by the United States Supreme Court in the past, involving racial equity, involving prejudice, involving slavery, involving a whole list of issues, taxation, individual liberty. And sometimes the majority gets it wrong, and there will be a dissenting minority who expresses their views. And from that dissenting opinion comes a future ruling that changes or overturns the mistake that the court made. And so we need all voices here. We need all the voices on the school board saying whether they agree with going around the state auditor and doing an independent audit, or whether they agree with the attempt to collectively bargain and pass a collective bargaining agreement in the district, which they tabled, thank goodness, for a while. That's the last thing this district needs, is a public government union, a teachers union with a collective bargaining agreement, when over half their kids cannot perform proficiently on key academic subjects. And that, after all, is it not what school and education and the dollars are all about? Coming up, a voice from the front lines of freedom's fight. Hector Gonzalez joins us to share how communists hijacked Cuba and how they're gunning for America next. Don't miss it. Stay with us here on Kentucky's Voice, 502-571-0970. Let us hear from you.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Jim Waters with you here on Kentucky's Voice. Thanks for joining us today here live on 970 WGTK and across social media platforms. You can catch us each weekday here at 11 o'clock. Glad to have you with us. You are Kentucky's Voice. We together are Kentucky's Voice. And we were talking about the Fayette County Public Schools before our break. And on top of trying to censor board members who disagree, trying to keep them and muzzle them and keep them quiet, on top of going around the state auditor to do their own audit with a friendly auditing firm, which is just right within what we're seeing in our public education system. The whole thing about trying to look good rather than actually be good or make things look better than what they are instead of confronting the problems. Now we have homeowners in Fayette County suing Fayette County Public Schools, which is now trying to use eminent domain to take properties to build a new school. The chief operations officer there in the Fayette County Public Schools, just another one of their bureaucrats, Myron Thompson, addressed the controversy at the board meeting on Monday, explaining the district's position, saying that land is pretty scarce here in the community, and we're running out of pieces of property for schools in particular because it requires such a large footprint. And so you've got taxpayers, property owners speaking out. Laura Mullins, whose backyard backs the site where they're trying to take a property to build a new STEM academy there. She says she doesn't buy the explanation. She said it's been a nightmare from the beginning, she told Lexington TV station WKYT. Mullins claims she only learned of the project after the trees were removed. Since then, she says heavy rains flood the neighborhoods like never before, and her emails to the school board have gone unanswered. She emphasized she is not part of the eminent domain dispute, but still expects transparency from the district. But others were, and so now we've got this going on with taxpayers. And I want to bring in our guest, Hector Gonzalez, who's joining us today here on Kentucky's Voice. Hector, a great Cuban American, a patriotic Cuban American right here in Louisville. And Hector, I know we're going to talk about a lot of things today, but you know, the communists, when they took over these countries, one of the first targets in their sights were public schools, were education, the education system, because they knew if they could get young people and get their minds and brainwash them and force them to believe in socialism and give up their individual liberties and rights and desires and dreams, then they would be on their way to taking over the whole nation. Are we seeing that happen in our schools here? They're not learning. They're not being able to read. They're not being able to reason for themselves and understand and be able to argue their points. This is a problem, is it not?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know why. I mean, this is such a great country, you know, and and little by little, we're losing it.
Yeah, but it begins in schools, and I know you're from Cuba. Did you now tell us a little bit about your story and when you came here and kind of your background, but also your education? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, yeah, I came here for when I was 10 years old, the first time to Miami, and to see the birth of a little cousin, and I used to come to Florida, once in a while, and in 19 what was it 50 in 59 when the revolution took over, I came out in August, and then I went back with my uncle, from Key West. We drove the ferry, to Havana, and anyway, and
Right.
then everything changed. Everything changed. He first of all, when he took over, he said in '59, he said he was a socialist, and then but he wasn't going to touch anything, anybody, because he wasn't going to hurt anything, anybody, But then in 1960, in October 1960, he claimed himself a communist, and
Yeah.
that's when he started to nationalize all the,
Yeah.
all the
Well,
American,
let-
all the companies.
Yeah, let's
foreign
stop.
companies.
Let's stop there for a second,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
or let's dig a little deeper on that. And this is what always happens. You always have. We've seen this in socialist countries. We saw it in the Soviet Union. We've seen it across the world where this has been tried. And you have a group of people that once they get power, we saw it happen in Cambodia. Once they get power, they usurp that power and they strengthen. They find ways to protect their power. And so you have a few people at the top who are doing well, and everybody else is in poverty. Everybody else is suffering. And we've seen this over and over with socialism. Why do you think that happens that way? Why did that happen?
Well, it's all about them. Let me tell you, it's all about them. They don't care about the people. It's a bunch of bull, telling the people that we're going to help you, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Yeah. And
But
once they got a hold of the military, right? Once they got a hold of control of that,
they
then
had control.
Yep.
They had complete control in 1959. Batista left, who was the president, Fulgencio Batista, left in the 1st of January, and then Fidel took over, and then that was it. And the military, even right now, they're the one who runs everything.
Yep.
And all the money in Cuba. In fact, I think they have an account that's got like 18, 20 billion dollars, and the people are starving. So
Yeah.
they're starving. They don't
sounds like
have,
North
they don't
Korea
have
there.
power,
You got the
they don't have water. They don't have anything.
Right.
I mean, it's just horrendous.
yeah. It sounds like North Korea there. You got the fat little dictator up there, and everybody else is starving. He's having food flown in.
Yeah.
And so Hector, I think a lot of our young people don't understand how this works. As we said, the only way that the socialists can force the people to do what they want is at the end of a gun, at the end of the barrel of a gun. That it is by force.
Yeah.
And it amazes me that we've got a lot of young people here who are very idealistic about socialism. And yet your point, I think, is really important, even if it did happen years ago. And that is that once people get power, it never stays. It never remains, it never remains that much. It's always going to be more. There's always going to be a grab for more power. And so if young people here think they could march in the streets, what would have happened if you had a group of young people that marched in the streets after Castro took over Cuba? How long would they have lasted as protesters, and where would they have ended up most likely?
In jail. Immediately, they were beaten up, and then in jail.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And it wouldn't be in jail in America. It'd be in a Cuban jail.
Exactly. The first thing that he did was to take all the weapons from all the Cubans, and that's what the Democratic Party wants to do here. Get rid of the guns so that so they have complete control.
Yeah, and back to the education thing for a minute here, and we're speaking with Hector Gonzalez, who is a great Cuban American who's warning America about not going down the path of communism and what it's really like, not what the idealists say, and and telling us what some folks who support these crazy ideas don't want us to know. But is it not true that in a Cuban school, for example, they wouldn't be free to teach their history fully and what happened? They wouldn't be free to criticize Castro and criticize the regime, would they? They would be. There would be a lot of propaganda there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They just they're brainwashed.
Yeah.
Telling them the revolution is the greatest thing, and this and that. That they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and they never do anything. All they do is, just
and they
let them
right, and they took the educated people and got rid of. There were purges. Communists always purge those who they're threatened by.
Absolutely, absolutely. Only the teachers that are going to do what they want them to do, remain. And it's really. It's really. My country used to be a beautiful country. Let me tell you. And I think in 1958, the Cuban peso was even with the dollar. We could come over here and spend pesos, like dollars.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, stay with us, Hector. We're going to come back and talk some more, and I want to hear what you have to say, particularly to America today, what you see happening and what your concerns are about. We'll have more with Hector Gonzalez, Cuban American who spoke here in Louisville last week to the Louisville Republican Women's Club, warning us about socialism, communism, and its impact on Cuba and what he sees happening in America. Don't go away. This is Kentucky's Voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And thanks for staying with us here on Kentucky's Voice. Love to hear from you today, 502-571-0970. And if you're just maybe tuning in for the first time, let us know you're listening. If you just want to text us and say, I'm listening, that's all you got to say. But it'd be great to hear from you today. If you have a comment, question, something on your mind today, something you want us to talk about, a show topic idea, let us know, 502-571-0970. You can also support us and partner with us by texting GIVE, G-I-V-E, to that number, 502-571-0970. You can also check us out at kyvoice.org and check us out on television this afternoon on Channel 21 WBNA, right here in the Louisville area at 12:34 and 8 o'clock. Hector Gonzalez, a Cuban American who lived through the nightmare of Castro's communist takeover in Cuba. He escaped here with his family. Many young people are looking for a way out. Hector, with this whole immigration debate that we have, isn't it ironic and important to note, I think, that we're having to build a wall to keep people out of this country, and yet you've got countries like Cuba, like other communist countries that are forcing people to stay there in many cases, and it's just such a difference. And then you talk about, if communism is so great, why isn't Cuba doing better? What's happening in Cuba now after 60 plus years of communist rule? If you all don't believe anything else, believe the results. And what are the results? Tell us.
Well, the results are awful. Let me tell you, the poor people in Cuba, they're starving. They don't have any power. They don't have any water. They don't make any money. And the only food that they can buy them in the government stores, which are in dollar. And they make maybe $10-15 a month. Equal. They get paid in Cuban pesos. But the Cuban peso now is like 460, 470 pesos to the dollar now. Like I told you, in 1958. The Cuban peso was even with the dollar, Yeah. And Cuba was a beautiful country. The Americans every weekend, would just fly in and
a great vacation destination,
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Havana is used to be a beautiful city. Now it's just full of garbage, the entire city, and that's where they have all these viruses from the mosquitoes and all these different type of mosquitoes, and they don't have any medicine to take care of it, And the people are, every city, they daily 10, 15 people die from these viruses. You know, it's just unbelievable, unbelievable,
Yeah.
unbelievable. That's
Well,
all I
you
can
know,
say,
and somebody can say, well, that was a long time ago, but that's why I'm saying if it was so great and things had changed, then people wouldn't be starving. They wouldn't be digging through the dumpster. They wouldn't be getting these diseases just 90 miles from our shore. So
Exactly.
Hector, you know, it's not necessarily the location. Like you said, Cuba's in the past was a beautiful and prosperous country, a vacation destination. I think Ernest Hemingway even had property there and a home there,
Yes, in
and
Havana.
had to flee because they weren't going to let a writer like him live. They weren't going to let him express his views.
Right.
So that shows, does it not, the power of ideas? So what we have going on right now is a war over ideas, over whether the individual should be free or whether the government and the state should tell people how they're going to live their lives. And so we see the dramatic and drastic difference in America, even with all of our problems. You're pretty free here to pursue your God-given happiness, God-given dream, and pursue your own happiness as you see it, not as the government tries to tell you it is.
Yeah. No, you know, and when I came to Louisville, we came in 1962, in April 1962, and been here ever since. We love the city. It's anyway. I graduated high school from Atherton High School in 1964. Then I went to Murray State University, and I got a degree in industrial technology, and I graduated in 1969. Then I went to work for Philip Morris here in town, and I worked like 12, 13 years here, and then I got promoted and relocated to Richmond, Virginia, and I was there 12 years, and then I came back again to Louisville because I was using all my vacations just to come and visit my parents. They were here. So,
well, how much different would your life have been in Cuba?
Oh my God! Now, now, are you kidding me? Oh, it would be a mess. Let me tell you, it's no telling. I may not even be alive. I'll be honest. Because I would be against the government. And they kill the people. They don't. If you don't agree with them, they'll put you in jail for 20, 30 years for nothing. Just for going out in the streets. And demonstrating.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I will tell the Americans, do not go to Cuba now. We got to wait till something's going to happen. Venezuela is going to go first, and then Cuba, and but do not go now because it is a mess. It is a mess.
That was actually my next question. We're talking with Hector Gonzalez, great Cuban American who spoke to the Louisville GOP women's group last week out at the Wildwood Country Club where they meet. And Hector, that was the next question I had was, what can America do? What do you expect to see happen? What do you hope will happen? And is it what you expect will happen?
Well, my expectation is that that Trump finally gets into Venezuela and gets rid of Maduro, and then if Maduro goes, Cuba's going to go because Maduro is and Venezuela are the ones supporting Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
They give him the
Right.
petroleum, they give him money, and then all the people around Maduro, they're Cubans, because he don't even trust his own people in Venezuela because he knows they will kill him, So anyway,
Yeah, well, that's right. And we've seen that in the past, right? When Cuba became a satellite country of the Soviet Union, when the Soviet Union fell, Cuba had to find another sugar daddy, if you will,
exactly.
political sugar daddy, which turned out to be Venezuela. And if they go, then maybe, and like you said, that might be the best thing that can happen. How much of a difference is there in, say, what a Trump administration now versus what a Biden administration might have been? Would that have been an impact on what you would hope to see happen for Cuba? Would that have delayed things at least?
Oh, let me tell you, the difference is night and day. I mean, Biden did nothing. He just, in fact, he helped Raul Castro. They gave him money and stuff. But now with Trump, it's a different story. He's tightened up the screws. And like I said, if in once and I think it's going to be soon. If Venezuela goes down, I think Cuba will go right after, because they that's all, that's all the money they get
Yeah.
is from Venezuela,
Well, I think too, we talk about young people who really here haven't experienced or haven't had the up close vision that some of us had. For example, during the Cold War, when the communists were in control of more countries, and we've seen it crumble quite a bit. So it's kind of on the backside of that, but it's always something we have to be aware of and we have to be cognizant of. There's always going to be a tyrant out there. There's always going to be a group of people who want to force their views and their wills on their fellow man. And I think our young people, because they really haven't seen this and some of the ravages of communism and socialism, they're somewhat separated from that by time because, when the wall came down, for example, in East Germany, dividing East and West Germany, and Reagan was president, we saw a lot of change there. But and so talk to our young people, because I think they take a lot of things for granted. I think they take, for example, religious freedom for granted. They take the media, freedom for granted. How much freedom is there of religion in Cuba? How much freedom is there of the media? How can people really find out what's going on?
Well, let me tell you, the problem here is that the young people here have lived such a beautiful life. This is what a great country. The parents, work and make money, and they have all the freedom they want. So, when somebody tells them that they're going to give them free stuff like Mandami did in New York, I'm going to give you this, the free busing, free that, the people say, oh, well, maybe we'll try that, but they don't understand, that they will lose everything, and we will see it. Trust me, we will see it in New York happening sooner than later.
Well,
I'm telling you.
Right, and especially if he's able to move forward with this, let's hope that he doesn't. On the other hand, maybe the redeeming factor, if he can, would be that some things would happen that would wake people up about that there are consequences of believing these ideas and supporting these wrong-headed ideas.
Absolutely. And I think people will see it. It's not going to take very long, let me tell you, because, the way that they're used to living in this country, although New York is I would say, I don't know, half the population or whatever is the foreigner, and those are the people that voted for him, I think, not the real Americans.
Yeah, it's we've got about a minute left. You've got family here, right? Are all your family now out of Cuba, or do you still have family there?
Well, no, I believe it or not, I have 8 cousins that are doctors in Cuba. I'm the only engineer in my family, and I have 3 more doctors here in the United States. In fact, one here is in Louisville and he is retired. But my parents, they passed about a year and a half ago, and I took their ashes back to my family mausoleum. So my dad is very happy to be there with his parents, brothers, great-grandparents. I mean, my entire family. And one day I will go back there again myself.
Well, Hector, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. And folks, if you want to get in touch with Hector, get in touch with us here at kyvoice.org. We'll be glad to get you all connected. If you want to have a great story, testimony for your church group or your club, you should do it. Coming up next, the left's latest sedition scheme targeting our military, then a heartwarmer right from Kentucky here to send you off today. Thanks, Hector.
Okay.
Stay with us.
It's been an honor. Thanks.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And we're concerned that members of the military are stuck in a spot here, and they really don't understand what to do. You get briefed on this stuff pretty early in your career if you're at OCS or ROTC or maybe in boot camp. It was just a friendly reminder that we are a country of laws. And by the way, I don't think there's anything more American or patriotic than standing with the Constitution. We're a country of laws. If anybody in the chain of command, anybody asks you to do something that's illegal, not only should you not do it, you're actually required not to do it. You have to follow legal orders. You are not to follow illegal orders. It was pretty basic. And the president's first instinct is to politicize this, to threaten political violence on members of the United States Congress. On the heels, I mean, it's just 2 months ago that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and he talked about political violence, and now his instinct is to call for execution.
Well, if the left's playbook was a movie, it'd be rated R for rebellion. Today's clip there that you saw, Senate Democrats being led by Mark Kelly of Arizona, openly urging our brave soldiers to disobey orders from their commander-in-chief. Yes, you heard that right. Sedition in a suit. That's what it is. And you can't sugarcoat this stuff. You can't. We must confront it. We must be vigilant about this, that we actually have United States senators who are suggesting they know what they're doing. They're planting seeds of rebellion in our armed forces. Kelly and 5 other Democrats dropped a video that's got the Pentagon probing for unlawful orders encouragement. And get this, if you heard that there, well, you did hear it. Can we play that again, Dan? Is that possible to play that one more time? Okay. I want you to hear this again because I want to make a couple of more points about this. And go ahead and play that.
And we're concerned that members of the military are stuck in a spot here, and they really don't understand what to do. You get briefed on this stuff pretty early in your career if you're at OCS or ROTC or maybe in boot camp. It was just a friendly reminder that we are a country of laws. And by the way, I don't think there's anything more American or patriotic than standing with the Constitution. We're a country of laws. If anybody in the chain of command, anybody asks you to do something that's illegal, not only should you not do it, you're actually required not to do it. You have to follow legal orders. You are not to follow illegal orders. It was pretty basic. And the president's first instinct is to politicize this, to threaten political violence on members of the United States Congress. On the heels, I mean, it's just 2 months ago that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and he talked about political violence, and now his instinct is to call for execution.
So did you catch that, folks? This is Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, and he invokes the Charlie Kirk assassination here to support his call for the members of our armed forces to rebel against their commander-in-chief if they don't like an order or it's not politically correct. And what's really got him stirred here is Pete Hegseth. And Donald Trump. He doesn't like him. He doesn't like they're bringing back the toughness, the discipline, the focus of our United States military. They're focusing it away from a woke agenda by his party, by his group, by his people, and they're refocusing our military on doing what it's there to do. Yes, constitutionally defend this country. There were very few requirements of the Constitution, and there were very few things that the founders of our country wanted a national federal government to do. They wanted to limit it greatly because they understood how much power a centralized government can amass in many different areas. And so they kept it very limited. Their view was a very limited central government that a central government that did some very important things. Now, right now, PBS has this leftist approach to the American Revolution, where they spend most of the time talking about grievances and how America's faults, and they waste a whole lot of opportunity to really educate people. Of course, Ken Burns, he's going to do that. And look, it's well done, okay? I'm not talking about the style. I'm talking about the substance. That's part of the problem here, is that we Americans have become too enamored by the style, and we haven't paid enough attention to the substance. And if you watch the American Revolution series that's on right now, pay attention to the substance and how every other few minutes is about grievances and about racism and how we're a racist country, and how our founders were slaveholders and other people were slaveholders. And nobody's denying that that was part of our history. But what was it that those patriots were fighting for? And it's almost, actually, the series almost sympathetic to the British, to the king. Yeah, to the king. And you talk about slaveholders, you want to talk about brutal oppression and repression, and yet they present them in a fairly friendly light in many cases. And they present America as this struggling place that couldn't have made it without slaves. That's it. I said it. That's what they're doing. And so you've got this. You've got the founders who wanted a centralized government for the primary purpose of having a defense of the country, because you can't have freedom without a defense of property and persons and personhood, and of the rights of the individual to worship as they please, to say what they think, to assemble when they desire. And that our founders intended for our central government to provide that as strong defense. And they put the president in command of that military as the commander-in-chief. Now, they wanted the civilian presence in control of the military. They did not want military leaders, ruling the military, because that would set up what we've seen in too many societies, too many countries, where the military really becomes is unaccountable to the people. And that's not what our founders wanted. On the other hand, the military was put under the command of the commander-in-chief. And whether you like that commander-in-chief or not, and I said the same thing when Obama was president, when Biden was president, when Bush was president, when even Nixon and Jimmy Carter were presidents, that they are the commander-in-chief. And America has always rallied around the military, especially in times of war. And Franklin D. Roosevelt, for all of his faults, big government and big government spending programs, nobody can deny his ability, his acumen, his savvy as the commander-in-chief of America's armed forces. And that's a large reason why this country survived, and not only survived, but was victorious in World War II. But now you have this leftist, and as President Trump called them, seditious, and they are, when you are encouraging military and you're kind of wink, wink, nod, nod, hey, if a law's illegal, you don't have to abide by it. Or if an order's illegal, you don't have to abide by it. Wink, wink, nod, nod. And that's the playbook of the left. That's the playbook of socialism. That was the playbook. That's how much of the unrest in countries begins, is by planting those seeds of rebellion among your young people, among the military, among the population as a whole. That's what George Soros is funding. That's what we saw in the aftermath of Breonna Taylor. I'm not going to look. There was an agenda there, okay, period. There may have been things that law enforcement did wrong. I'm not going to say there was, but that's not what that was about. That's not what those protests were about. They were about chaos, creating chaos in our streets. They were about threatening the liberties and rights of business owners and freedoms of the citizenry to live in peace, to live in a quiet, peaceful existence. And this is all part of the playbook to create chaos, to create upheaval. We saw it with, especially in the aftermath of the George Floyd and the Breonna Taylor situations. Not that there wasn't things wrong done in those situations, wrong things done, but the left took that and they used it as an opportunity to try to destroy and divide this country. That's right. That's what they did. So, no, the Constitution does not grant individual soldiers the right to decide which orders are illegal. Instead, military law requires soldiers to obey lawful orders while disobeying orders that are manifestly or patently illegal. Now, who's going to decide that? Disobeying orders, even if deemed unlawful, can result in serious penalties like demotion or jail time. Pardon me, and the Senator Mark Kelly, who could be recalled to active duty and prosecuted. That's what the Hegseth and Trump are considering, because you're always bound by this military code of justice, even after if you retire, even from the military. You're bound by this, and so we'll see what happens. But no, you cannot disobey an order just because you don't like it. Now, that's a different thing than an officer giving you an order to shoot somebody in the head who hasn't done anything and you're not at war with, and there could be things like that. But who's going to decide what's patently illegal? Who's going to decide? Is it going to be Mark Kelly? I hope not. Well, great story here. I heard about a local woman hiking along the Kentucky River Palisades in Mercer County. She hears a faint whining. She squints at what looks like a speck on the sheer cliff face, 100 feet above the raging river below. Her blood runs cold when she realizes it's a dog who's been stuck up there. He can't get away. He's a skinny, shaking little pup named Luna, clinging for dear life. Long story short, this Good Samaritan ends up reconnecting this dog with her owner, who hadn't seen her for a couple of months. Saved the dog, reconnected the folks. A great story. Kentucky and Jessamine County woman. Thanks for joining us.